Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
The appointed hour has arrived. It is 6 p.m. and we are having our regularly scheduled business meeting at Gilchrist Elementary School this evening. It is February the 25th, and we're pleased to welcome you all. At this time, I will turn the microphone over to our student school board member who will introduce our student participants for the evening and the pledge and the thought of the day. AP?
So first up, we have Avery Campbell. She is a fifth grader here at Gilchrist. She's accompanied by Miss Sydney Campbell, her mother. And a little bit about Avery is that she's the SGA president this year and is on the All-A Honor Roll.
Please join me and stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next up for the thought of the day, we have Ava Abbott, who's a fourth grader at Gilchrist Elementary School, accompanied by Miss Dina Abbott. She's the SGA secretary, an Orff choral member, and a Tropicana speech winner this year.
The thought of the day is, every great dream is created by a dreamer. Always remember, you have within you the strength, the patience, and the passion to reach for the stars and change the world. By Harriet Tubman.
Okay.
Beautiful.
Well done, ladies. Are your parents here? If you're a parent or relative of these beautiful people, would you please stand up and be recognized so we can thank you for coming out tonight? I know we're going to hear more from the Gilchrist family in a minute. I just wanted to take a moment of personal privilege to welcome my colleagues to School Board District 4.
Okay.
Glad to finally be in my district, and I remember one time, and I'll tell this story about my son who was sitting in the back row back there. I called him one day, and I said, or he called me, excuse me, and I said, yeah, hurry, I got to go. He goes, where are you? And I said, I'm at the place where you were the happiest you've ever been. He goes, oh, you're at Gilchrist. So Tripp and his girlfriend Julia are back there. They were students here many years ago. They're now 23 and 24, I believe. But they were excited about coming tonight and getting to walk around and see some of their former teachers who are still here in the trenches. And this place had a profound impact on our family, and I know it continues to have an impact on many, many families and is a blessing to our community. So Mr. Crow and all of your staff and the administration here and folks like Miss Lynn in the cafeteria. There she is, Miss Lynn. I was just saying to my kids, I said, gosh, who would have thought that we would still remember Miss Lynn? And she just had and Tripp said, well, she had a profound impact on my life back then. So I want you all to know that there are kids everywhere who feel this about you if you're an educator. And you may not realize it, but rest assured that you have made a profound impact, and you will continue to do so, and we're forever grateful for your time in our lives. And with that, I'll turn it over to Ms. Bowen to read the changes and additions to tonight's agenda.
Yes, Madam Chair, and the changes and additions are as follows. Number 1, item 19.02, Leon County District School Board Financial Audit, FYE June 30th, 2019. This item has been moved to consent. This is now item 17.05. The Audit Committee quarterly report. The Audit Committee's quarterly report will be given during this meeting. Number 2, item 19.03, Leon County School District Internal Accounts Audit, FYE June 30th, 2019. This item has been moved to consent. This is now item 17.06. The Audit Committee's quarterly report will be given during this meeting. Number 3, 19.04, Southwood Development of Regional Impact, the DRI amendment. This item was pulled in order to provide additional information. I move the acceptance of these changes.
Thank you. Moved by Ms. Bowen, second by Mr. Jones. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed no. Show it unanimously approved. Thank you. That takes us to item number 3, Superintendent. Your highlight for the evening, I suppose, is Gilchrist Elementary School?
Shockingly, yes. So it is good to return to my alma mater. Just 45 years ago, I was a Timber Lane tadpole. Mr. Gilchrist was my principal. Unlike your son, however, I don't have quite as fond of memories. I remember in 3rd grade, I got really behind in my SRA reading, and that's when you had different colors, and I got stuck on brown, and just... So my parents and my teacher is pulling teeth to get me through the 3rd grade, but we survived. But this school has served this community so well for nearly 50 years since I was here. But and that's because of the great leadership and the wonderful the principal, Mr. Crow, and all the teachers that have been here. I remember Coach Blanton was my coach many years ago. So it's good to return to the scene of the crime, so to speak, where Little Rocky used to run havoc, or run amok, I guess, down these hallways. So this time I'd like to invite Principal Crow and his staff to get up and share a few things about what Gilchrist Elementary School looks like in 2020. So Principal Crow.
Well, thank you, Superintendent and school board members and district staff. It's an honor and it's a pleasure to open up our home to you tonight and have you with us and the community here with us tonight. It's certainly a pleasure. When we got the call earlier in the year to host this, we've been excited ever since, because it gives us a small chance and opportunity just to let Gilchrist shine. And Gilchrist has shined in this community for a long time, but to have you here is super important. And we're just delighted to host your meeting tonight, and thank you. And Gilchrist, right now we serve about 935 Grizzlies, pre-K through 5 every day. And we've got a wonderful school community that we serve. I will tell you that with the students that we have here are amazing. I'm asked a lot of times, what are those qualities of a good, healthy, wonderful, meaningful school? And I'll tell you, it boils down to great kids, great staff. We have a wonderful faculty, and we have a strong administration. I want to thank you for pulling together a strong administrative team. Thank you very much. And I'd like to introduce them at this time. Our assistant principal, Ms. Austin, Tina Austin. Other assistant principal, Dawn Wilder, and our dean, right over here, Rosie Wyatt. And I want to thank them. And like you, Superintendent Hannah, Gilchrist has been a special place to me and my family for many years. I grew up playing on these fields, and I remember when it was Timber Lane and they were the Tadpoles. Now, of course, we're the Gilchrist Grizzlies. The school's 54 years old, but it's been a staple in this community. It's part of the fabric of this community for a long time. And eventually, if you talk to someone or you see someone in the grocery store or someone you know, eventually you can make a tie to Gilchrist. It's just had that kind of position in the community for a long time. But my children went through Gilchrist. My wife taught here for many years, and this is actually my second stint as Gilchrist as the proud principal. So for that, I'm honored and the privilege to serve here as well. And just to share a little bit about the day in the life of Gilchrist this week, and somebody told me today, Mr. Crow, it's like we're putting 10 pounds of potatoes in a 5-pound sack, but we're having a big it's every week at Gilchrist. We're hosting the school board meeting this week, which is super fun. We have our art night. We have arts night Thursday night. It's our art family night. We have book fair all week this week, and that's always a lot of fun for our kids in the media center. It's also Grandparents Week, and so all week, each day, we have grandparents that come and eat lunch with their child during lunchtime each day. Not coincidentally that we have book fair at the same time. They take their grandparent to the book fair, so no marketing there. But it's a lot of fun to have our grandparents with us this week as well. We also had our Black History Month assembly. And you'll see the shirts that we're wearing as part of our vision and mission this month. And our theme has been Hands of Hope. And that's our shirts that represent that theme this week. So we've had a lot of fun with that as well. So with that, I want to share a couple of things and a couple of highlights about Gilchrist. And I'll let Ms. Austin share one. We have a courtesy cup for you as well.
Thank you, Mr. Crow. And I also wanted to mention that we are led by an awesome leader, Mr. Scotty Crow. We would like to give him a round of applause. He talked about our great team, but he is a great leader for the students and for the staff. So we wanted to welcome everyone out to Gilchrist Elementary this evening, but we also wanted to leave you with a little token of our appreciation for allowing us to host. Aww. And this was made by our kindergarten class, Miss Moore's kindergarten class, and it has the little grizzly on it. And they all say something a little different, but our boys and girls in kindergarten wanted to welcome you to Gilchrist. Some of them say, I love you. Some of them say, thank you for coming. But we hope that you enjoy your little snacks, and we hope you enjoy your time at Gilchrist. And now you are an honorary Grizzly.
And as our spotlight, we'll take just a minute and share with you a special program that we're proud about. It's called Stretch Your Mind, and it really stretches our educational day to the after school, and we invite our children to kind of stretch their mind. Each afternoon, let Mrs. Wilder share a little bit about our Stretch Your Mind program.
Thank you. Good evening. So we have a lot of academic programs that we share with our kids during school and after school. And so we have done this program for a very long time. It's called Stretch Your Mind, and this is more of extracurricular activities that our students get to be involved in. We let our 4th and 5th graders participate in this, and it's absolutely free. We do it for 2 months, once a week. Our teachers are paid, but it is free to our students, and they can sign up for several different clubs, and they get to choose whatever club that they would like to go in, and we offer a range of clubs. Right now we have about 6 or 7 different clubs, and so they sign up, and then they get to go to these clubs once a week free of charge, and they get to participate in things that normally maybe their parents can't afford for them to do, or they can't get there because of, after school driving, their parents can't get them there. So this is an opportunity for our students to look forward to something fun, and all students can participate no matter what their academic level is or their behavior or anything of that nature. They just get to go to these clubs. So it's also a time that our teachers get to kind of share something that they're passionate about. So, for example, this year, and the clubs change each year, but this year we have gardening, and it kind of helps us as well, but it's to beautify our school, so any kids that are interested in gardening. We have creativity of the mind, and this is more for like art and STEM, kids that want to spark their imagination, develop creativity, that kind of thing. We have baton twirling, and one of our teachers, I know it's kind of funny, but one of our teachers actually was a baton twirler at her college, and so she is the teacher, and you'd be surprised at how many of the girls signed up for that, and she just shows them fundamentals and tricks of baton twirling. We have paw prints, which is a world of journalism. We have coding for those that want to be involved in websites and learning how to decode. We also have brain games, and those are kids are able to stretch their minds with different games, blocus, Quirkle, chess, and those kind of things. And then we have art lab, and that's if you want a little art in your heart. And so those are our clubs this year. And the kids really look forward to this, and we're very happy to provide this service for our families. And it's also something that our younger Grizzlies can look forward to as they grow at Gilchrist. So thank you very much. That's our spotlight.
Wonderful.
So again, welcome everyone to Gilchrist. Thank you for your support, school board members. Thank you, Superintendent Hannah. We certainly are pleased to host this school board meeting tonight. Thank you all so much.
Madam Chair,
Mr. Jones?
thank you for your kindness and hospitality to us today. I see you have a number of stakeholders who are also present with you. Would you like to introduce them as well?
Well, goodness, I know we have some parents, and we have a few students. Do we have some other teachers and staff? Miss Lynn in the back, our building maintenance supervisor is back in the back. I know you're here. Any other friends? Yep. I know there's a lot of colleagues as well, principals and other folks, so we welcome everyone tonight.
Miss
Thank you.
Lynn keeps them straight.
She sure does.
Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
When we talked about this, that was no sooner than I was after my election. This is the type of engagement and type of meeting that we envisioned, that persons like schools like Gilchrist and their principals would have opportunity to provide a spotlight on the innovation and creativity that is born here, such that it would become a part of our public record, that persons who ordinarily would not be engaged in government and see government at work could see it here in our local schools, in our neighborhoods, and this is a perfect example of what we anticipated when we started this program. So thank you for showing the best of Gilchrist and the best of Leon County Schools.
Thank you. You're welcome. Thank
And
you.
I want to, you mentioned the teachers, the administration, and parents. I remember Ms. Walker, I think you and Ms. Wilder and Mr. and Mrs. Crow and I were all parents here together, and at that time there were some 700 parent volunteers that were actively engaged. Now it's 750? Oh, no, oh, well, 1,000 now. Well, that's right. We have 2 new wings, so no more portables. Yay. So anyway, just an incredible support system. So to all the parents who are here tonight, thank you. Please, please share our appreciation with your peers and colleagues.
So if I could add, Madam Chair, we mentioned about special guests with us this evening. If you ever need help with that baton twirling class, I saw a majorette. Former majorette for the Marching Chiefs is with us tonight, a special guest of mine, my mother, Joan. So if you would please stand up. Mom, stand up. So my mother was a majorette for the Marching Chiefs. So if you need help with that class, I'm sure she would love to come volunteer.
She's going to kill you.
She's probably having flashbacks. She probably hadn't been in the school in 45 years, having flashbacks to where Mr. Gilchrist's office is. But, and I also noticed we have some student athletes from Florida State University here tonight. So guys, why don't y'all stand up to be recognized? Thank you for being here tonight. And I see one of Tallahassee's own is among them, a graduate of Childs High School, right? So one of our famous FSU football players are here tonight. So guys, thank you and welcome. Hopefully you don't have to stay for the entirety of the meeting, but to get a little flavor. And thank you for how you represent yourselves both on and off the field. Very appreciative of that.
Very good. Always proud to see our Seminoles. All right. That takes us to item number 4, recognizing Radiology and Associates.
Madam Chair, at this time I'd like to bring up Kelly Walker. Kelly, if you'd come up and talk about our special guest and why we see so many principals in the audience tonight.
Good evening, Madam Chair, school board members, and Superintendent Hannah. I wanted to take a minute, too, to tell you the Walker family was at Gilchrist for 12 years. My daughter and son were Gilchrist Grizzlies, and I actually started as a new volunteer coordinator here in 2002. So the rest is history. But Gilchrist is a great place to be. I attended the volunteer breakfast here a few weeks ago. And our family doesn't, I was telling the folks in the audience, our family doesn't call it Gilchrist, though, because my little boy, Scott, he had a little speech impediment, and he called it Wilchrist. So we always say Wilchrist, the whole family does. As you recall, Leon County Schools and Radiology Associates has a phenomenal partnership. This partnership is in its 5th year. And once again, we thank Radiology Associates for sponsoring the Healthy Kids Art Contest. That contest promotes a healthy lifestyle in our youth while they participate in a great art contest, and then they produce a wonderful calendar. And I see that you have your calendars in front of you. Our friends over at Radiology Associates were kind enough to bring you a copy of the calendar, and I'm sure you will enjoy those. At this time, I would like to introduce you to Dr. Alan Chen. He's a pediatric radiologist with Radiology Associates, and he has a special presentation. After he presents, I'm going to call all the winners of the Healthy Kids Art Contest forward, and then we'll take a group picture at the end. So, Dr. Chen, welcome.
All right, thank you. Good evening.
Good evening.
Just apologize I couldn't make the school board meeting 2 weeks ago, but now that we're at Gilchrist Elementary, it's a very appropriate place because this is the audience that we targeted, so it's great to be here. And without further ado, I'm pleased to present a $13,000 check to Leon County Schools for the 5th annual Healthy Kids, Healthy Lives Arts Campaign. All Leon County Elementary art classes were invited to create inspiring artwork that embraces a wide range of healthy habits, including respect for the environment, tobacco abstinence, healthy eating habits, exercise, oral hygiene, positive self-image, and positive relationships. So this year we had a record of 20 schools out of the 24 elementary schools in Leon County participate this year, and our host and title sponsor, Radiology Associates, offers a huge thank you to all the other event sponsors, and this included our silver sponsors, Tallahassee Pulmonary Clinic, Florida Cancer Specialist, Tallahassee Neurological Clinic, our bronze sponsors, Tallahassee Primary Care Associates, and all our friends at First Commerce Credit Union and Dr. Michael Firstoffel. The sponsor logos are included in the calendars and on the school posters as permanent reminders of their contribution this year. And when you meet or visit any of the sponsors, please thank them personally for their contributions. So all proceeds will be divided evenly, and checks will be written directly to the arts programs to each of the 20 participating schools. So each school will in turn receive $650. So thank you for all for participating, and it was a great event this year. Reminds me that I read a lot of X-rays on kids, and it reminds me that that the kids are real. So it's not just for you guys, it's for me as well. So anyway, thank you and have a great night.
Great.
Thank you, Dr. Chen. Superintendent Hannah, can we just have a picture of you and Dr. Chen, and then we'll do a group picture at the end with the check presentation? Thank you, Chris. Beautiful. Thank you. The proceeds from the Healthy Kids Art Contest are very beneficial for our elementary art programs. They go directly back into our art programs. I had an art teacher tell me a few years ago she had never been able to afford clay for her art classes until this contribution. I would like to extend a special thanks to Leon County Schools art teachers Judy Jecko and Deborah Minikoff. They coordinated this program with all the art teachers. So I want to call them up, and as they're coming up for a special presentation to Radiology Associates, let's give them a round of applause. Deborah, you may come to the mic.
Now you really hear my nasalness. We would just like to thank you so much. The art teachers appreciate what Radiology Associates does for us in supporting the arts, and just the knowledge that the kids are gaining about health through what we're doing with the calendars is just wonderful. So we had thank you cards designed by the students, and so we're going to present this to you.
Oh, how nice.
So you can enjoy more art.
Okay. Perfect. Okay. So, Dr. Chen, if you'll stay up front for just a few minutes, put that down, then we'll. So, at this time, let's meet our winning artist. Our cover artist, Karina Bolanos Trejo from Woodville Elementary School, joined by Principal Dr. Lisa Muir and art teacher Sally Ash. If you'll come forward and just stand with Dr. Chen, please. And then we'll take a group photo at the end. Our January artist, Carlin Sneed from Springwood Elementary School, joined by Principal Sylvia Myers and art teacher Samantha Sanchez. Our February artist, Taryn Warner from Gretchen Everhart School, joined by Principal Jane Floyd Bullen and art teacher Judy Jecko.
Yay!
There she is. Our March artist is Selena Reinfelds from Appalachia Tapestry Magnet School of the Arts, joined by Principal Jennifer Ricardo and art teacher Ashley Chandler. The April artist, Haley Hatmeyer from Roberts Elementary School, joined by Principal Kim McFarland and art teacher Deborah Menikoff. The May artist, Alba Garcia from Rudiger Elementary School, joined by Principal Sally Stevens, Assistant Principal Shannon Hare, and art teacher Kat Jones. Our June artist, Brian Duff from DeSoto Trail Elementary School, joined by Assistant Principal Cassandra Poole and art teacher Kim Saliasis. Our July artist, Alex Ha from Hawks Rise Elementary School, joined by Principal Evie Friend and art teacher Angela White. The August artist. Alex is in South Korea. Oh, okay. Alex is in South Korea, so they will accept on his behalf. The August artist, Deani Bolden from Sealy Elementary Math and Science Magnet School, joined by Principal Demetria Clemens and art teacher Heather Mott. Wow, it's getting really crowded up here. This is great.
Great.
September artist, Sophie Kuhn from Buck Lake Elementary School, joined by art teacher Sonia McDowell. The October artist, Ava Collier from Killorn Lakes Elementary School, joined by Principal Brenda Wagner and art teacher Billy Penn. Our November artist, London Hall from Astoria Park Elementary School, joined by art teacher Margie Grussing. The December artist, Liram Rivera from W.T. Moore Elementary School, joined by Principal Carrie Anderson and art teacher Jason McMillan. And last, but certainly not least, our invitation artist, Janiyah Britt from Kate Sullivan Elementary School, joined by Principal Michael Brine and art teacher Emily Westfall Crouch. That's okay. Let's give another round of applause to all of our winning artists. Thank you again, Dr. Chen and Radiology Associates, and at this time we'll take a group picture. Okay, and school board members, if you can kind of come in, we're going to have to like scooch in probably now.
Let's just stand up back here, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
Where's Chris? Oh, okay. Chris, you got to
Did you see the baby, the 3-month-old baby? Oh, cutie. That's very nice. Very nice. Proud. nice there. She's talking right now. We'll get in a minute. Madeline, she's not looking.
Madeline.
Madeline, come up to the podium. Yes.
Holy cow, the air is on.
Yeah, they turned it up.
Did-
Yeah, that's what they're. It's freezing.
All right, feel free to continue taking your pictures, but if we can keep the volume down a little bit so we can continue our business meeting, that would be great. I know we'd much rather celebrate artists. All right, we're going to move along with our business meeting. At this time, I'd like to recognize Ms. Madeline Fyock and the Student District Advisory Council Chair. Madeline?
Thank you so much, and good evening, school board members and superintendent.
Good evening.
The SDAC met on Wednesday, February 12th. During this meeting, we were able to discuss the voter registration drives and hear from each of the schools how it went. Overall, we had 789 student pre-registration and registration forms, which is just amazing. Also, the schools received a certificate from the Supervisor of Elections Office with that number, the total, and their school name as well, and just kind of like as a thank you for participating and a job well done. We also had Miss Misty Cash discuss her efforts with Random Acts. She is trying to implement that in Leon County. Her idea is to start an organization in middle and high schools to encourage a culture of kindness. She wants to promote small acts of kindness and their efforts on others to try and kind of make sure that everyone in the community feels welcome and a part of something. In addition, we are looking into dates and times to meet with Chief John Hunkiar to discuss the security in Leon High School. He invited us to come visit the security facility, and we'll have students discuss with him their inputs and thoughts on our security in Leon County. When I brought that up to the SDAC, they were all very interested, and so we're really trying to work on a time to try and include everyone on the SDAC. Also, Leon High School is hosting the Florida Association of Student Councils State Leadership Convention on March 5th through the 7th. The theme is Jurassic Park, and we have transformed this to Leadership Park. We have over 1,200 students coming from around Florida, and Leon High School students have been working on a 3-day schedule. I, as well as other exec board members, have been working on a script for all of the general sessions that we will have. And this year we actually have the highest school participation ever. So we have over 100 schools participating in this event. Last year they had almost 100, but this is the most they've ever had. So that's really great. It's also the first time that it'll be in Tallahassee, so this is a great way to showcase our community as well as our city. During the convention, we will be touring multiple places such as FSU, FAMU, the Capitol, the National High Magnetic Field Laboratory, and as well as Leon High School. We have also organized for different speakers to talk about their stories and any advice that they have to share with the students to discuss leadership or any of the skills that they would like to address to students. And yes, that's all. Thank you.
That's great, Madeline. Thank you. Any questions?
I'm just impressed. 1,200 students are coming, and y'all
Yes,
are hosting
over
that?
1,200. Yes.
Oh,
yes.
that's wonderful.
High schools all across the state.
Yep.
That's terrific.
And that means we'll be feeding 1,200 students as well.
That's quite
Yep.
organized.
It's huge on
Looking
stage.
for donations, I assume, for people that might be in the audience that may want
Oh,
to provide
definitely.
food
We are
to this
still
group.
open
I
for.
bet the football team can
Wonderful.
pass the cup, right? There you go. See, you got a thumbs up. There we go.
Yes, we have great sponsors already who have really donated and helped us out a lot, so we're very thankful for them as well.
Great. Mr.
So I'd like to also congratulate Madeline for being recognized as one of the Youth Volunteer of the Year finalists. So congratulations to that. And we're very excited about hosting this statewide event. So I will definitely be attending at least the opening ceremonies, and I think it just speaks volumes to the leadership we have, not only at Leon High School, but at all the schools in our community. You saw where it trickled down to right here at the elementary school with student government associations. So it's a really cool thing to watch.
It's great. Good job.
Very good.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Madeline.
Thank you, Madeline.
All right, that takes us to item 5.04, which is our Audit Committee's quarterly report. I serve as the chair of the Audit Committee.
Yes, you do.
But since we have a more qualified audit expert, she's going to handle the report.
Good evening, school board members and Superintendent Hannah. My name is Julie Leftheris. I serve on the Audit Committee for Leon County School Boards and feel privileged to be here today on behalf of my fellow members of the Audit Committee. The Audit Committee met on January 17th this year. The meeting highlights are as follows. The primary purpose of this meeting was to hear the results from 2 audits. The district financial audit for fiscal year ended June 30th, 2019, and the audit of school internal accounts for fiscal year ended June 30th, 2019. The audit results were presented at our committee by the district's external auditing firm, Purvis, Gray & Company, and this is their second year in a 5-year agreement to perform the district's financial and internal accounts audits. Their financial reports are included in the school board's agenda for acceptance by the school board, and they are items number 17.05 and 17.06. And before I get into the formal report results, I'd like to share that the auditors were very complimentary of the school district and district staff, as that's your CFO, Kim Banks, and her staff.
Yes.
They were very complimentary of the work that they've done as part of this audit. Specifically, they did also share that the audit was issued 3 months earlier than prior year due to her hard work of her and her staff. The district had a good year financially, and fund balance levels are adequate. The Department of Education requires a 3% fund balance. Leon County Schools has about a 15% fund balance. They also provide a reminder that the Auditor General's office will conduct the upcoming financial audit for fiscal year ended June 30th, 2020 in accordance with Florida statute. And during that same time, Purvis, Gray & Company will continue to conduct the audit of your school internal accounts. As far as the formal audit results for the district financial audit, the auditor's opinion, the firm issued an unmodified opinion, which means that the financial statements were fairly presented in accordance with generally accepted auditing principles, or GAAP, and this is the highest level of assurance that can be provided by a CPA firm.
As Board Member Jones says, you may applaud, right?
That's no easy lift, I just want to say.
Yeah.
As far as findings, there was one finding in the report that was deemed to be a material weakness, and that's on page 75 of the report. I know you have all read the bulky report. The material weakness was related to the preparation of the annual financial report. The district this last year used a new software system called Caseware to aid in the preparation of the annual financial report, and they did encounter some issues with conversion of data, which resulted in the need for some adjustments. The adjustments have been reflected in the audit report. For the federal single audit, as part of this audit, the auditors completed the federal single audit, which is the audit of federal funds received by the district, and they tested 3 major programs: the Special Education Cluster, the Child Adult Food Care Program, and Title I grants. There were no findings with the federal single audit.
You may applaud.
Now, you may applaud that.
As part of their procedures, the auditors followed up on last year's report. and they determined that the district had taken adequate corrective action to correct all of the previous year's 4 findings and found them to be resolved. The formal audit results for the audit of the school internal accounts were as followed. 15 schools were selected for audit this year. There were 5 repeat findings related to receipting, disbursements, and segregation of duties issues, bank reconciliations, and ticketed events. 2 new findings related to unreasonable accumulation of prior year student fees and internal purchase order approvals were noted. The auditors mentioned that these are typical issues that would be seen at every school district, and these findings are recurring issues due to the small nature of some of the schools and limited staffs regarding segregation of duties. None of the internal account findings noted should cause any significant concern. As far as other information, in addition to presenting the 2 reports, the auditors discussed 2 new GASB statements that could have an impact on the district. District staff is already aware of the requirements of the statements and have begun planning to implement the necessary changes. The statements are GASB number 84, fiduciary activities. This statement will impact the reporting of school internal accounts. Internal accounts are currently reported separately as agency funds and not part of the core financial statements. These funds are held in custodial nature for the schools, with the accounting system spread throughout the district at each school. GASB number 84 redefines custodial accounts and eliminates the agency fund category. The level of involvement, administrative authority, and approval of transactions will impact how these funds are classified. As of right now, DOE and the Auditor General's Office have not provided any specific guidance on how these funds should be classified, and this potential change in reporting of school internal account funds is required during the current school fiscal year. Next, GASB number 87 regarding leases. This statement will look at the total population of operating leases. These leases will be required to be reported on the balance sheet with a liability similar to the reporting required for capital leases. The statement must be implemented in the upcoming fiscal year. And finally, the magic word for the audit report. The committee reviewed proposed revision to Leon County School Policy 6840 Auditing Committee. The committee voted to forward the policy to the school board for your consideration and approval, and the proposed policy is included in tonight's agenda as item number 19.01. And due to time constraints, the committee voted to defer discussions about the Office of Internal Auditing's issued reports and work plan for the next regularly scheduled audit committee meeting. And again, thank you for the opportunity to provide an overview of the audit committee's activities. Our next report to the board will be provided in May of this year. And as a reminder, audit committee meetings are held 4 times per year during July, October, January, and April. And our next meeting is April 17th of this year.
Julie, I would like our colleagues to understand, and I know we have a couple of other members from the audit committee who are present here tonight. Stand up if you're on the audit committee, if you don't mind, just so we can thank you for your time and service. Tell them what your day job is, just so.
I'm the Inspector General for the State University System Board of Governors. I am a graduate of Seeley Elementary, attended Griffin Middle School, and Miss Weaver, that's who I call her, was one of my assistant principals when I graduated from Leon High School. So.
Wow. All of that's good.
It's
really
just,
good.
you know, I say this often, and I know you've heard me say it over and over again. It just continues to just impress and thrill me that people with this level of expertise are willing to give of their time to serve on these committees, and especially this committee, which is so critically important when it comes to expertise.
Yes.
So we're grateful, and to all of you, thank you so much for your good work. I do want to also highlight one of the things she said, just board members, if one of the points that we were trying to make tonight was to let you kind of give you a heads up that there are some changes that are coming. And if you heard her mention, the Inspector General and the Department of Education have have not allowed or provided any guidelines to us. And I know that our CFO has been on the phone with other CFOs in other school districts to see if we could all come together and figure out what the best practice would be. We don't have that luxury, and so because of the timing, our district will be trying to implement a new policy without any guidelines. So it's possible that we will have a finding because we asked them how to do it and they didn't have any advice on that. So we'll see how it goes. I know that Kim and her staff will work hard to do the best job that they can, and we'll give it the best shot we have, and based on our understanding of the new provisions, and we'll end up where we'll end up. But I just wanted to highlight that, it may be that we'll be back here, a year from now, saying, well, we tried and this is what they said. Mr. Jones?
Yes. Thank you very much for your hard work and that of the staff and the other citizens who are engaged on this committee. I am interested in the district. In this era of accountability and transparency, I don't want this to just be a part of the public record. I think that this news about what has been our capable and competent stewardship of the tax dollars that have been made available to us needs to be shared with the larger community. I think that is very important. I'm also curious to know of the few sightings that we had when we went to the more than 20 sites, were there corrective actions associated with those ones that you cited as reoccurring? And if that's so I'm sure that the superintendent and his team are on top of whatever those corrective actions are, such that those do not continue, particularly if it's described as reoccurring. But overall, it is a fantastic audit for a district of our size, and it says a great deal to the competence of the leadership that we have at our sites across the entire expanse of the district. So congratulations to everyone for all the great work that they have done and for what has been your quality report.
I will say to that, Mr. Jones, one of the issues that we have is the internal controls. So if you've got a bookkeeper and a principal, and there are certain things that whoever receives the money is not supposed to do.
I understood that.
And separation of authority. And a lot of times, some of our school sites, especially a small elementary school, is going to have a hard time fulfilling what would be considered the accounting and auditing standard.
That's accurate?
Yes.
So does that mean they need more staff so that this does not continue to occur? I'm sorry, just to follow up.
Yeah. Just because they're small doesn't mean you can't.
To have proper separation of duties, you have to have, a certain number of people to handle transactions. So you would have to expend funds to hire someone to establish a control for a fairly small amount of money. So it's an assumed risk.
And in these, in a high school, you could have anywhere from 60 to 70 internal accounts, everything from JV cheerleading to freshman lacrosse to, there's just an abundance of internal accounts that are housed at the school, at the site, and receipting of monies collected at gate receipts and ticket sales, and there's a lot of dynamics. And I think the important thing is this is seen in many districts because you have so many accounts that you're working with. I would say if job one is student safety and protecting our children from harm, this is job two. And I am this is a moment to celebrate, because it's just what you said. This is something to let the taxpayers know. To have only one finding this year. We've had only three findings in the last 3 years. The last time the state was here, we had 0 findings. And I swear, if Merrill was here right now, I'd kiss him on the lips for finding Kim. And I can't thank Kim enough for finding Kathy. Right now, Naomi, we just have to deal with, but we can assure our taxpayers in this community that their dollars are in good hands and are being well managed. And this is a moment to celebrate.
Yes,
it really is, and can't thank you enough for your expertise and all that we've done to strengthen and Pat. As a layperson on this committee, to have more eyes on the tax dollars, to ensure that we are doing everything humanly possible to be held at the highest level of accountability for how these dollars are spent and accounted for.
Absolutely. Well said, Mr. Superintendent.
Thank you for being here, Jill.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
Great job.
All right, very good.
So, Amari, I have to ask, is this part of a class, or are y'all being punished for breaking curfew, or what happened here?
Where do you think you're going?
What class is it? Public administration. So if y'all know Mr. Gaynor, he is a product of the Leon County school system. Graduated from Childs High School, right? Do we have any other Tallahassee kids here in the class?
There's one.
All right. What high school? Oh, just kidding. He wanted to go to school here, right?
Somebody's
All right. So
Thank you for coming.
So I guess y'all are ready to get out of here, huh? But thank y'all again for coming. Best of luck with mat drills and spring practice, and can't wait to see what the future's going to bring. So best of luck to you. Remember, student then athlete, right? All right.
Very good.
Okay.
All right, persons to be heard. We have a couple of speakers who have filled out forms.
Yes, Madam Chair. We have 3 speakers. The first speaker, Andrea Douglas. If you could please come to the podium, give us your full name and address for the record, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Hi, good evening. My name is Andrea Douglas. My address is 1905 Rosedale Drive. My husband and I are in the process of adopting 4 children out of the foster care system. As of Friday, all 4 children have been placed in our home. Prior to their placement, I have done research as to what schools that they would attend, and to my shock and utter disappointment, I am zoned in the worst zoning in Leon County. They are supposed to attend Astoria Park, which is one of the lowest performing elementary schools, not only in the county, but in the state, according to schooldigger.com. So I immediately got online, filled out a school choice application for a hardship, which was denied. So I attempted to make phone calls to see why the denial. I called Jamie Holloman, no answer. On February 18th, I called the school board, left a message. I got a phone call back from Dr. Michelle Gale, and I informed her about my concerns. She said that for the upcoming school year, it was done on a lottery system. And so I brought up speaking in front of all you guys, and she said, quote, the issue would be passed to her, and she would tell me the same thing. So in other words, I shouldn't even fight for my child's education. I should just accept the denial and whatever the outcome of the lottery system may be. On February 20th and 24th, I left messages with the superintendent's office, Rocky Hanna, and I got no response back. Also, on February 20th, I reached out to Governor Ron DeSantis' office. So it has become clear that nobody in a position of authority cares about the children in foster care and surely does not care about my children's education. An article published on fostercarenewsletter.com states, with less than 3% of foster youth graduating college nationally, 3%, many youth who are or were in the foster care system find themselves dangerously disadvantaged educationally. So I am here today to stand for my child's education. They deserve better than an underperforming school and a lottery system. They've already been failed by their biological families, by the system. Each and every one of you today have the opportunity to give my children the best chance for success. Or will you fail them too? As Ms. Rossuman stated at the beginning, her son was the happiest at Gilchrist Elementary. I'd like my children to be happy here too. The gentleman in black stated that Gilchrist is a great school because they have great kids, great staff, and great administration. My kids are great, who would flourish with great staff and great administration. So I am here, and I hope that y'all would reach out to me with some solution and a help to help my children.
Ma'am, your time is up.
Thank you. I hope that y'all do reach out. My children deserve better than a C school.
Your time is up. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next speaker, Scott Mazur. Please come forward, give us your name and address for the record. You'll have 3 minutes.
Hello. Scott Mazur, 3319 Dartmoor Drive, Tallahassee, Florida, 32312, president of Leon Classroom Teachers Association. I'm here tonight to kind of do what I've been doing since I got into this position, that's to advocate for everybody as part of the instructional staff. When I first became president, started going to Lively, talking to the adult ed people, went down and visited the people that were over at Heritage Trails at the time when it was PACE. So right now we're talking about pre-K teachers. And I know that you already know that there are some things about legislatively about pre-K teachers that exclude them from certain programs. That's being addressed by FEA and LCTA during the legislative session, because as many programs that come out of the legislature, they sound real good, but in practice there are some problems because some folks just haven't been a part of education. So what I did, or what I'd like to share with you tonight is that, and I've already kind of spoken to a couple other people, but to continue the collaborative process that we have going, because there are some things about continuity that I think that we can improve upon. Whether it's lunchtime and planning time for our pre-K teachers, we'll address some of the other stuff at bargaining, but I did want to share with you these documents. The information shared to you is just a basic survey that talks about planning time and lunch and what we provide for our regular classroom teachers. I'd like to work with you guys on trying to find a way to meet their needs as well. I know some of it is that they have such great hearts and sometimes people don't want to leave a classroom because they know that there are needs within that classroom. So whatever additional staffing and supports they need, and how we can kind of, through the cadres that Ms. Brooke Bruner has started throughout the district, that we can kind of have the conversations so we can develop some best practices. Because it's not happening at every school site, it's happening at some school sites, and I just think we can create a common language for that. As far as the issue with legislative as well, I've got some documents here on some ways that you can keep up to date on text alerts and some newsletters that are out there. So we appreciate your support and look forward to doing the work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The last speaker, Stanley B. Sims. Please come forward, give us your full name and address for the record. You'll have 3 minutes.
My address, I just want to say to the teachers at Astoria Park,
Mr. Sims, if you could
don't drop
please
the book by its cover. She
come
gone.
use the...
I know, but you detrimental on that time.
I haven't
and
started it yet, but
I
I'm
don't want
asking
you
you
to start
come
when
to
I
the
get,
microphone.
Yeah, I just wanted to tell her the teachers at Astoria Park are good people. Don't judge a book by its cover. Read it. My name, see, there you go with that finger.
Give us your name and address.
All right. I just want to keep you legal.
Stay legal. Thank you.
All righty.
Go ahead.
I don't. I'm an ex-fella.
Okay. Give us your name for the record.
My name is Stanley Sims. I'm at 1320 Avondale Way. This young lady, student, came up here and talked about Harriet Tubman. Harriet Tubman, one of the theologians, said that she carried a gun. And they said that Harriet Tubman used the gun on more of the slaves than those that was running after her. And she was known for the quote that she said, "I freed 1,000 slaves. I could have freed 1,000 more, but they didn't know they were slaves." Ms. Rasmussen, my spirit is troubled here tonight, but I'm trying to honor my friends and be obedient to them, and this is difficult for me, because when something hurt me, I don't say, I say, ouch, and I'm carrying great pain. I want to use Ms. Alva Strickland for when you are a public servant. When you are a public servant, you don't agree with every constituent, but you are held to a higher standard. It is upon the public servant to reach out to the people to make amends, to make resolution. I thank you for that. And she don't do it in a politicking kind of way. When we see each other, and she don't even know I was going to talk about this, she slyly give me a smile or a wink, and we give each other a wink, and then we moved up to patting each other on the shoulder. Now we hug each other, don't we, Miss Strickland? That's what you call reconciliation. But when the door keeps getting slammed in your face, that hurts. And I never wore one of your t-shirts and never even put a sign in anybody's yard. That's a public servant. My thing is, Ms. Roos, you know I'm bad, and with my health, my speech is not like it was. It is deplorable when I have to convince the superintendent that economic development and entrepreneurship in our Title I school areas is something needed, especially with up under his care is trades. Us trades. And then you say, well, Stanley proved that. I don't forget. What about them two children, Darryl, that was over in the apartments, shot each other over 50 cents? 50 cents. What about that garbage, that, Ms. Bowden, you talk about that Tharp Street corridor. Look at the deaths that has occurred in one school alone. And I've got to convince the superintendent that there's more work to be done in our Title I school areas? He's got to defer to Darryl, who has already looked at our proposal, who's already backing it. He is the standalone.
Time. Thank you, Mr.
May I finish my thought? Do you all have that much?
Finish your sentence.
Thank
He is
you.
the standalone.
He is the standalone shareholder in this community that only has a problem with our program. Everyone else is finding a way to help us.
Thank you,
and I
Mr.
pray that when he speaks with you, Mr. Jones, that you will be able to convince him.
Thank you, Mr.
This is
Sims.
something that we need to be a part of.
Thank you, Mr. Sims. Your time
I'm
is
thankful, but I've been trying for a whole.
is up.
I know,
Okay.
but I've been trying for a whole week.
I
Miss Week.
understand that. but
Thank
your
you,
time
Mr.
is
Sims.
up.
And she ain't called me back yet.
Your 3 minutes are up. Thank you, Mr. Sims. No more speakers, Madam Chair.
y'all could be just as
Thank you.
hard on folks. We wouldn't be so bad with these 3 minutes if you return phone calls.
Thank you, Mr. Sims. Your time is up.
All right, is there a motion on the consent agenda, items 7 through 17?
So move the approval.
Moved by Ms. Bowen, second by Ms. Striplin. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. Show them unanimously approved. Items 18, items of consent on construction, which I will abstain due to the nature of my job in the construction field. Is there a
Move
motion?
approval.
Moved by Ms. Wood, second by
Second.
Mr. Jones. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Show it approved by 4 and 1 abstention. Ms. Coffey, thank you. Takes us to item 1901. Superintendent recommends approval to advertise the amendments to policy 6840, which the Audit Committee representative described earlier this evening. Moved by Mr.
Second.
Jones, second by Ms. Bowen. All in
Yes.
favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Show it unanimously approved. It takes us to the superintendent's comments, if there are any more tonight.
Yes, Madam Chair, this time we were hoping that Jessica Janusewicz, our lobbyist, would be here, but I wanted at this time for our CFO, Kim Banks, to come up and make some brief remarks about the proposed legislation and its potential effects, the financial effects it will have, or financial impact it will have on our school district, more specifically increased employer contributions to the Florida retirement system.
Thank you, Ms. Banks.
Good evening. As we discussed, I guess, just shortly yesterday, we're about halfway through session. Normally what we would see with any type of conforming bill for the General Appropriations Act is we would see it pass later in session, and that includes bills such as the Florida Retirement System bill. This year, however, the Senate chose to go ahead, or the Senate chose to go ahead and pass the House Bill 5007, which relates to the Florida Retirement System, which will increase drastically our contribution to the retirement system. The total fiscal impact of the bill is about $405 million to all participants within the Florida retirement system. Of that, K-12 is about $230 million. Leon County's impact is about $3 million. So right now, with this bill going ahead and being passed, we know for sure the budget has not been set, but we know that we will have an increased bill next year related to the retirement system of about $3 million. So as we move forward, looking at what we do as far as teacher pay or anything else, we know that we'll have a higher retirement contribution that we'll have to be dealing with in addition to everything else. So we wanted to make sure that everyone was aware that this is kind of passed out of the ordinary. Are there any questions?
Do you have any questions for Ms. Banks? So, there's a proposal, I think one chamber has about a $40 increase to the BSA and the other one's $50, but that would just basically cover 50% of this proposed increase in our contribution to the FRS, which is very concerning. You know, we're excited about what it's going to do for teachers, but like Mr. Mazur said, you give us $1 and then you take back 95 cents and we end up with a nickel. So, you know, but we're still encouraged with a lot of the rhetoric that's coming out on the teacher side, but on the flip side with our general fund, and to, you know, buy textbooks and to pay our other 2,200 employees, this could have a significant impact to our fund balance and exactly what comes forward financially. But I guess we'll have, when session's over, we'll know more definitively as to, you know, what we have to work with and what we don't. But I wanted to give you just a brief update of where things stand right now.
Question.
Ms. Wood.
We spoke yesterday, I don't know if you had time to look it up, what the Family Empowerment Act may have in terms of, has had this past year in terms of fiscal impact, and with them raising the ceiling higher for people who qualify. Do you have any anticipation of that?
I know this past year there was enough funding in the GA, I want to say for about 18,000 scholarships related to the Family Empowerment Act. We had close to 160 students actually receive those scholarships. It was about a $1.1 million reduction in our funds that went from us to private schools. There are several bills that are trying to expand the Family Empowerment Scholarship. It's trying to change the qualifications to make it easier to apply. There's other bills that are growing the Family Empowerment Scholarship, that every year it would grow by a certain percentage. So those are still kind of moving through the committee process, but we do anticipate it growing, which would be obviously an impact to us.
This is in addition to McKay scholarships, in addition to corporate tax scholarships, and the one they call the Bully Scholarship. So, I mean, overall, it's a significant impact on the school district, and I just think folks should know that. And I just see Jessica Danowitz walking in the room.
Can I like?
Yeah.
Real quick.
Ms. Stripling.
Sorry, if you could speak to the impact to our teachers regarding the FRS increase. So I'm sure that this word, you know, a $3 million hit to the district. Are the teachers going to feel any of that out of their paycheck directly?
So no, the $3 million is the employer contribution, but we are going to have to find a way to fund this. And right now, like I said, the budgets are still unknown. The way that it would impact any type of teacher pay in the future is the way that the salary allocations, it's created a new categorical. So when you look at that categorical and the entire district cost related to teacher pay out of there, they would be, the increase in retirement means possibly less wages because more retirement would come out of that categorical.
So basically now, if you started as a multiplier of 1.159, that number would increase to 1.2 whatever potentially, or whatever the new number is, which means more of the dollars we receive of the state, instead of going in the pockets of teachers, are going to have to go to help pay for their retirement.
Right, and just to give an idea, in the past our increase with FRS has been about a $500,000 impact a year. And so to go from a $500,000 impact to a $3 million impact is a significant increase. I think our budget director was running the numbers this morning, and I think she said it was about a 10%, our new retirement contribution rate is about 10% when you look at the healthcare subsidy and the administrative fee that we pay to FRS. And now,
Jessica.
There you go.
She hit on the highlights of the FRS and the fiscal part, but if you want to.
Sure. So just to give you all an idea, this is not something that has never happened before, and I'm sorry if I'm repeating anything that she said. Most recently, in 2013, we had a pretty substantial amount. In fact, it was $315 million approximately is what school districts were looking at having to pay. And what the legislature did is they did appropriate funds to make up that difference. So this year we're looking at about $232 million. Now that's statewide. Obviously, school districts are the most impacted because we have the most employees in the FRS. But your colleges and universities are also impacted by this, as well as, of course, the state. But we take the biggest hit. So what we're doing collectively, and of course this does impact all 67 districts, everyone takes a hit, this is a universal problem, is we have been working and meeting with folks and encouraging them to do what they did in 2013 and appropriate additional funds. That's not what was being discussed just in the initial budgets, but we have not even begun the conferencing process yet. We expect that to probably begin end of next week, but we don't even have allocations at this time, which is kind of step one in the process. So in our meetings and the meetings I've been having, as well as my colleagues who represent other school districts, we've all been saying the same thing. We need more funds. We are very grateful for the increase for teachers. We think that's fantastic, but this could really have a real negative impact on the school districts in that we might have a wonderful salary increase that we're all very grateful and excited for, but then the bottom line for our districts, maybe we're having to cut in other areas in order to pay this portion of the retirement that would be required.
Kim mentioned the increase in the allocation towards the family empowerment voucher. This year it was about 160 kids. We do the math times the 7,000 FTE is $1.1 million. I saw the number 80,000 being floated around for a family of four. Can you tell me what it currently stands at? Because I remember when I met with the commissioner, I said, what is the end game here? Where's the end? Everybody just you get your voucher and you go wherever you want. And he said, no, a mechanic and a hairdresser was like a middle-income family, basically. Can you tell me what proposed legislation is driving this?
And they are still discussing that, so that is something, we do have bills right now, and one of them was heard today, discussing just that. Today there was discussion about keeping it at the current level, which was 260% of the federal poverty level. So I can't tell you exactly what that would equate to, but I can get those numbers for you. There has been discussion, and we have seen in other bills, 300% of the poverty level, or 280. There have been a couple numbers that have been batted around, so that's still something that's out there that we're watching. But certainly, that money, while it is kind of diverted tax dollars, but of course that does deplete the pot, right? So that's something that we have to watch as well.
Questions?
Do you have any good news to bear?
We're waiting for
Someday I'm going to come with good news. It's going to be over.
Be glad she's here and not Jim Hamilton.
That's right. You'd be feeling really, really down. It's going to be over soon, so that's positive.
It's like a toothache, huh?
That's right. That's right. So we certainly, there have been some positive things, and certainly the teacher salary, I think, is probably the most positive thing that we've got coming out of this session. Yes, I'm sorry.
Where are things sitting on the SAT, ACT tests, especially in terms of how it's being funded, if it's going to be required, and if it's going to impact school grades?
Sure. So this is probably the most meaningful policy piece of legislation that we're looking at right now, and it's House Bill 7079 and then the Senate Bill 1498. Both of them have the requirement that the governor was pushing for, which in the legislation, and I want to be clear, it has not passed yet, it would eliminate the geometry end of course exam, 9th grade ELA exam, and replace that with 11th graders taking the SAT or the ACT. In the House bill, there is an appropriation to pay for that. So some school districts already offer that. So if you do, it would just kind of reimburse you for what you've been doing. Those who don't, there is funding for that. One of the controversial pieces in this discussion that we've been having with this is whether or not the SAT, ACT will be included as part of the school grade. Of course, we know the SAT and ACT are not designed to assess the Florida standards, right? Either our current standards or the new ones that we're going to have. So we've made the argument that that's not really fair to include that in the school grade because that's not what we're teaching. We're teaching the standards, which is what we're supposed to be doing. The sponsor on the House side said he really understood that. He did not want it to be included as part of the school grade, so I think that is something that has gained some traction. Both bills, we don't anticipate hearing them this week. These issues, whether or not it's this bill number or something else, which it very well could be something else by the end, I think these are going to be the big issues. It also contained within that bill is some language regarding the turnaround process. Most controversial there is taking it from 2Ds in order to enter the process to 1D. So you can imagine the impact that would be statewide. How many more schools would be a part of that process?
Well, and then also the reverter clause, which says if you've pulled out of that, like a Hartsfield or a Springwood or a Pine View or an Oak Ridge, and you revert back, so you take a step back in 4 years,
That's right. And actually, they just amended it to 3, but it was 4
So
initially.
over the next 3 years, you're automatically hit with basically the hammer clause that says you have to, the next year, either close the school down, turn it over to a charter company, or enter into a contract with an external operator. And we know we avoided that last year with Oak Ridge because of the work of Jasmine and the wonderful teachers that are going on there. But we had to still pay the external operator $50,000. And we've had discussion after discussion of, these external operators do not have a proven track record, and they're charging hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars as for-profit companies, which is a huge concern.
And they certainly, there aren't that many of them, to my knowledge, that exist right now. And so that's another part of the problem is, if you increase that number of schools, are there even enough external operators to serve these schools? This is very much in play. I'll tell you that this is very much still very much in discussion. Certainly, there's been a lot of pushback from a lot of stakeholders, school districts, associations, and the like. So this is very much something that we're going to be working on the next couple of weeks.
And yesterday, was it Representative Valdez? Representative Valdez was at Pineview and Bond, and I'm going to guess she's an R. She's not? She's a D?
Susan Valdez, Gandhi.
Okay, well, but she is all on these external operators. So we do have some voices up there that are trying to talk sense. And I went to Commissioner Stewart, and I've said this before, I'm going to say it again. I went to Commissioner Stewart and begged her, if you want to get your pound of flesh from us, okay, we get it. If you're going to tell us how best to run our schools, okay. Then make us pay the salary of 2 DOE employees and embed those employees into our schools to give direct feedback for the department. She thought it was a great idea. But then she said, out of the next sentence, but I'm retiring soon and I might want to open up one of those companies. Well, ironically, she did open up one of these external operating companies. But in the department, they don't want to do that because they put 2 of their folks in there and they actually don't turn it around and bring it. Well, then it's on them. But there has to be a better option because we could potentially be looking at having to enter into external operator agreements with numerous schools that we don't anticipate are going to take a slide back. But you just never know because of the fragile population of students that are at those schools. And, Mr. Sims and I don't agree on a lot, but I do take also exception to the comments that were made about Astoria Park. All right? I mean, that's just hogwash. And the same thing we say about Pineview and Oak Ridge and some of those schools, you don't know the wonderful teaching that's going in until you walk those halls and go in those classrooms. And for the commissioner and the rhetoric to be that we're failure factors, we're failing our kids, and we can't wait another day, it's simply not true.
Totally.
And certainly when you look at the school grades, as you all know far better than I, you can be a point away and be a D. And then that makes all the difference, right? And
2 students.
That's right. So the school grading formula is, imprecise at best measure.
It's a nice way to say it.
Jessica, can you speak to the DCD? Is it moving forward as?
Sure. So the House came out with a new plan for a new DCD formula, district cost differential.
Right.
This is something that has been in discussion for many, many years. There are lots of folks who don't like the current formula, but there was a study done that we have not seen the results of, and a formula was created. We haven't seen that formula either, but what we have seen is the run that the House did to show how it would impact school districts. Leon County is one of many that would be negatively impacted by the formula change. So we are working with a coalition of districts. It's about half, it might be even more than half of the 67 that are negatively impacted. Working to encourage everyone to keep the Senate position, which is keeping it as it is. And then having a more open forum so we can see what the study said, if there are changes that need to be made, because there certainly have been criticisms of it, and are there things that need to be done? Let's look at it. Let's take the time to look at it and come up with a new formula. So we're working with
And what's
groups.
the progress? What do you think? We're a week left?
Right. So really, this is going to be a budget discussion, quite frankly. So this is going to be in conference. So we're having meetings, encouraging folks to keep their position or change their position depending on who we're meeting with. But the real work and the real negotiation is going to be once we get allocations and the budget and we start talking. then we'll have a better sense. And we'll certainly keep you updated throughout that entire process. Just when we get the allocations, that'll be something to let us know kind of where we are from a fiscal point of view. And then once they start making agreements, which will probably, and this is just a guess, but I'm guessing end of next week, once we start having things batted back and forth, we'll report to you all. So if they come to an agreement on teacher salary, we'll let you know right away, because even though there might be a lot more to do in the budget, at least you'll know that's what that is. And we'll do that throughout the process.
So if you add all three of those numbers up, the increase to the FRS, the potential changes for us to the DCD, and the elimination of compression, it's a little over $5 million, right? Safe to say. So that's basically between $5.5 million, either less revenue coming in or more revenue going out, which is very concerning. And if you only increase the BSA by $40, that's say that's 1.5 million, so we're still short $4 million.
Right.
So.
And that's the message that we're spreading, because we absolutely want them to understand what this impact would be for all of the school districts. FRS, of course, impacting everyone. DCD impacting over half, and the same with compression.
Keep up the good fight. We
Thank
need
you.
I'll do it.
That's good. Thanks for
Thank you
coming
all.
out after a long day at the Capitol. You
Thank
and
you.
your team do a great job, and we appreciate what you do for us.
Thank you all for having me.
We
Thank
do.
you.
Thank you.
All right.
And finally, I would say, Madam Chair, I think we'll negotiate tomorrow, right, Dina? Yes. So we're back with LCTA tomorrow. I think we have a really good plan. There's been some good dialogue between both parties to come up with a plan for the money this year, that we can get monies to teachers over the course of the next 3 months. I think our A+ money is going out the end of this month, and then some of the best and brightest next month, and then we're looking to do the salary enhancement piece. I mean, so there's a lot of good things that are going to be happening over the next 3 months for our instructional and our educators, and some of our instructional parapros as well. And then we'll just wait and see what the state does, and then as we go back, because we know we're going to have that pot next year, then we can embed it and address issues like compression that may affect some of our veteran teachers. But so far, negotiations with LCTA have been very positive on both sides.
Very good. That takes us to continuing concerns and new issues. I'd ask Dr. Cox to give us a briefing. I noticed today and recently there have been news reports about the coronavirus and its impact coming into the United States, and I just wanted him to brief us briefly on what we typically do in situations like this when we don't know how to anticipate what the impact could be.
Okay. Current update with it as of today is 57 cases. There's 3 of them that were from Wuhan. Those 3 folks have been repatriated, which means they've returned to their country of origin. About 40 cases from the cruise ship, and that leaves another 14 cases. So in U.S., we only have 57 cases. And I know it's a big thing in the media and the market itself, and the indices of the market have dropped over 2,000 points, basically from the Dow anyway. So I know it's a big thing. But keep this in mind, 57 cases, we currently have 15 million cases of the regular flu. Okay, so the regular flu is out there every year. So this is still in the very, very low risk category. This came straight from the CDC, because when Dee Dee called me, I immediately called the Department of Health to get their data. CDC's up in Atlanta. All right, so what are some of the things that we do in our district in regards to the coronavirus or just the regular flu? Is that we have a letter we send out to the parents, and we're going to resend this one actually, just when to keep your child home from school. And it's kind of interesting, but per CDC flu symptoms, if they recognize this in their child, they need to stay home. Fever over 100.4. Aching muscles, chills and sweats, headache, dry persistent cough, fatigue, weakness, nasal congestion, sore throat. We've got this in a letter form that we send to them. Let me just read the opening statement. It's sometimes difficult to make the decision about whether or not your child is sick enough to stay home from school. With minor symptoms early in the morning, you cannot predict if he or she will feel better or worse during the school day. The guidelines below may help when you're trying to decide what best to do. And then it goes back into the fever, the coughing, and the other things. Keeping your child home from school is not an easy decision, right? It impacts a lot of ways. So that's all right. So if the prevalence of the coronavirus, it's going to increase. It's going to do like these viruses do. Right now, we're about 2 months away from human trials, which puts us about a year and a half away from the availability of a vaccine. So the vaccine, it takes a while to create that. Some of the things you do is a term that you might have heard called social distancing. And social distancing is when you isolate people or groups that are sick. Now, what do we do at Leon County Schools? So we contract with the local Department of Health, but even if we didn't and we handled health services ourselves, they guide us on this, okay? That is their fiduciary responsibility. I mean, they come in and tell us what to do, just like when we had one tuberculosis case at Godby. They came in and they took controls of it. They have an action plan over there, and I meet with them all the time. And they would do the same thing here. If it hit a certain segment of our population, they would come in and we would work a plan. But as we currently sit, there's nothing in Florida. There's 57 cases. The risk of it is real low. It doesn't mean it's going to go away anytime soon. The prediction is it'll be with us for a while, actually.
But the answer, should any of us be asked, is we work with the Department of Health. They call the shots.
Are we communicating the same information to all of our school sites?
Yes, the letter, and I'm sorry I got this late, so I ran out of the office with just this one copy, but I can send it to y'all. It's the letter that we typically send out. It's universal forms of precaution. The coronavirus is no different than the bird flu or the swine flu or SARS. They follow these. If the child is sick, they need to stay home.
Well, the good part about it, our schools are, as a principal institution in our community, has a responsibility to inform the public. There is a whole lot of misinformation regarding it. I was drinking a Corona. Somebody said, "Are you not scared of getting sick?" So, I mean, we have to offset that and make certain that parents feel safe. Mm-hmm. Students are also informed. Teachers are informed. And so I think it goes a long way to offset what are clear headlines and to distinguish between that and spook science.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Dr. Cox.
Okay.
I'm sorry,
I
Ms.
just
Wood.
wanted to comment, and I don't know what the protocol is at the schools now. I remember back in the day a time where we had an incredible flu epidemic in Tallahassee, and everybody was getting sick at school, and so we really got into custodians making sure every single surface was wiped every day, tables, desks, and I don't know if that's been gone over, or if maybe that's just everybody's doing it and has for the last 20 years, but will you check on that, because that is so critical.
Right now,
critical.
with the universal precautions, washing your hands and following these kind of things, that would help eliminate some of that if we missed on some of that. What was it, H1N1, we actually went in and gave all the children in the district that vaccination.
Yes.
That was interesting.
I was there.
That was interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting at the elementary level, for sure.
I remember those.
But
too.
just in terms of the protocol for our custodians to make sure they're wiping off all the desks and tables is prevention of flu as well.
Right.
Just to get in that habit so that we're doing everything we can to not spread germs.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Ms. Bowen.
Oh, thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Superintendent, this has been a wonderful meeting, and I'm very pleased to be here. Gilchrist is a very warm room. I love the artwork on the walls. Mm-hmm. This has been a very busy week for me. This is the end of African American History Month, and I've been in various schools throughout the county. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute, but I felt the need to make a couple of comments. I feel like the Thorpe Street corridor has been impugned. What does that mean? It means we do some wonderful things here in this system. I live in the Thorpe Street corridor. Children attend Astoria Park School. We have excellent teachers and families who work there and who do what they can to provide the kind of educational opportunities that our children need. And I'm saddened and somewhat shocked. I didn't know how to respond when the information that was shared by one of our speakers was shared. I sat here in shock and thought, what's happening? What's going on? What do I need to say? Just leave it alone. But I don't think I can leave it alone just yet. Our children are watching us. Our children watch this program. The children that I am elected to serve and make policy for, the parents who are wonderful about adoptions, who are wonderful about providing meals, who are wonderful about volunteering in our schools, those teachers who come and serve as surrogate mothers, aunties, uncles, counsels, they do all of these things above and beyond what their job description calls for them to do. And so, as my granddaughter would say, I'm feeling some kind of way right now because I think the message needs to get out there that as a board and as a community, we're not going to be able to please everybody. But I do want the community to know that I honestly think that we do what we can to be fair in providing the kind of answers to questions that are given. You may not like the way the answers are given or what is said, but it's my expectation that I respect the superintendent and the staff to handle those issues in a way that is still fair and just and nice, okay? So the shock of what I went through a little bit ago is lessening some. It's lessening a little bit. Our teachers, our students, our community, we're all in this together. And I really believe if there's any way we can help each other, we will. And I want to think that when information is shared, it is looked at. We can't always give you the answer that you want, but again, I say, as long as it's given respectfully and the opportunity is there to appeal whatever that decision is, Mr. Superintendent, I believe that you will do that. Would I be correct in saying that?
Yeah, yes, ma'am. And let me say that I'll speak directly to Gilchrist Elementary. And I've ensured that there is a level playing. Well, I'm just talking about the request was made for Gilchrist.
Okay.
That there is a level playing field, and that's why we went to this lottery system. I've been uninvited to Christmas parties of family members of mine. I can't go to Easter at one cousin's house because the answer to Gilchrist and to Leon and to Childs in our overcrowded schools has been the same no matter what your position was. There is a lottery system that's fair and equitable for every person in this district to apply for. For our schools that are under capacity, if we have under capacity schools, there's no lottery. You know, you can automatically gain entry into those schools that are under. The only lottery system is for schools like this that we continuously put more portables up, build new wings. You can't have an elementary school with 2,000 children. You just can't. But I can assure you that the system we have in place now is fair and equitable to every resident and every citizen and every family in Leon County.
I appreciate that, and I did not want this meeting to end without there being some response.
Ms. Bowen, can I add something to what you're saying? But I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Finish.
Ms. Wood?
A lot of this fear, and I know I'm a little bit of a broken record for the last 20 years on this, is the misunderstanding that our community and our parents have about school grades.
I didn't get to that. Go ahead.
People see that the school grade is a C and they suddenly think it's an inferior school. School grades are a measure of who walked in the door and what skills they had when they walked in the door in general, and schools can bump them up a little bit, and they try and they do, but it is not the reflection of what goes on in that school, the kind of teaching that goes on. The work sometimes is twice as hard, and if you talk to actual parents and in those schools, they'll say they love their school, and they are branded, you know, in a very unfair way by school grades. So I would ask the parent who spoke to go visit Astoria Park, as I did the other day, and see their new carpet in their nice media center. The mayor and I happened to have lunch over there together the other day.
Absolutely. It's a
And
great place.
it was a great experience. So sometimes schools, because of the school grade, get this negative rap, and I so object to it because it is such a misrepresentation of what's happening in our schools. That's all I wanted to say.
And I appreciate that, Ms. Wood. And you know what? Perhaps I'll not be able to make this as clear as I will when I calm down a little bit more, but this is African American History Month. And we're talking about slavery, we're talking about oppression, we're talking about racism, we're talking about all of those isms that caused this country to be what it is, you know?
Yes, ma'am.
And so at this point, to hear, it just does not fit well, I think. You know I was invited over to Deer Lake. I'll try and change the subject, but maybe I won't. To serve as the Black History Month speaker. It was an absolutely wonderful, wonderful experience. I've not been over there in a few years. And the topic was, from struggle comes success. And I thought, what a great topic. I got there and there were 300 faces waiting for me in the gym. They treated me royally. So I presented myself to them. I said, I'm going to give you something rare. I'm going to stand here today and I'm going to be your relic. I'm your relic because when you look on the computer and you look at the history books, you will see some people in fields picking cotton with a long sack on their back. I said, I am that little girl. I did that. So you don't have to go to the computer. You can have me today all to yourself. When you read about a little girl that had to get the books of her white neighbors down the road, you can look at me. I got Caroline's books. When you look in the computer and you find somewhere in the library the colored water fountain on the left, the white water fountain on the right, I was that little girl in Marianna, Florida, who had to drink that water from the colored spigot that was slimy and dirty, and the water on the white side was cool, pristine. I was that little girl that had to go to the back of the bus, so I paid the same fare to ride on the bus as everybody else did. I was that little girl when we traveled, we couldn't stay in the hotels. I said, so I want you to reach out and touch me. Reach out and know, so that as you talk to your children, you can say that you knew somebody who did this. You know, I think that Harriet Tubman and those other folk were outstanding. But when you talk about being for real and making the kind of changes, America is a good place. The state of Florida is a good place. Lynn County Schools, it's good, but there's much improvement that we can do. So until we start to tell the truth and be real about who we are and how we got to be the way we are, we're going to continue not to do any better than we do, and we'll find some places so terrible that nobody wants to be in them. So that makes me just a little bit angry. So I ask for your understanding as we continue to make policy for all of our children, and as we greet and meet and try to make a place for those who may not like the answers that we give. Is anybody feeling me? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry. So that's where I am right now, and it's up to us. Those 300 kids, the majority of them were white, and I've been doing this for a while. When I tell you, I have never felt more welcome. It was like, Grandma, tell me more. And so why did they treat me that way? I think that, first of all, they have been taught to be respectful of their elders. I told them that I wish I could take you home with me and put you on my den floor the way I handle my grandchildren. And yes, I even went show enough black on them. And I would fry you some chicken. I'd give you some collard greens and macaroni and cheese and make you some Kool-Aid, and it was wonderful, keeping it real. You follow what I'm saying? And I know I'm going to get some pushback from this, but until you understand the cultures and the atmosphere and that we live in and that we work in, and that you have people who are still, I don't want to say sympathetic, empathetic, but who are for real about the struggles, we're going to continue to be where we are. And so I ask us, with the shortest month in the year, we talk about African American history. Now, I think that perhaps in all of our schools, we infuse African American history into everything that we do. We should. The superintendent has said we should. You know what I'm saying? And so to carry it on month after month after month is what we really ought to be about. All right? All right. Now, I want to read you a story. Oh, it's going to be a short story. It's going to be a good story. It says, our local African American leaders. Okay? He's my friend. I can do that. It says Anthony Jones is the Dean of Math and Sciences at TCC, our local African American leader. Dr. Andrea Frail is the Chief Medical Officer for TMH, our local African American leader. And then there's somebody you might know. Joy Bowen is on the Leon County School Board, our local African American leader. And it goes on to list some other folk. Now, this was pulled together by it goes on to list a couple of others. Of course, it has Leonard Hamilton there, the coach of the FSU's men's basketball team. It has Casanova Nurse, the local meteorologist. It has Chef Shack, the local, she's a local leader. Roy Moore, the owner of the Piggly Wiggly. And I'm leaving out Walt McNeil, and I don't mean to, and Doris Malloy, the tax collector. Now, I only share this with you because it was done by Leon County Schools. In the Thorpe Street corridor, that's located not too far from Astoria Park, which is a very good school and a very good community. And it was done by, guess which school did this? Gretchen Everhart.
Oh, wow.
Okay, is that a wow moment?
Wow.
So I say, neighbors, if we're going to continue to be the all-America city and care about each other, let's just do the right thing, because the time is always right to do the right thing, just like Martin said. Do you want another story? Maybe not. Thank you.
Ms. Bowen.
Thank you, Ms. Bowen. Ms. Striplin.
Thank you. I'm going to make this very short. I do have something I want to draw everyone's attention to about the item that was pulled before we meet next week. But before we do that, Ms. Bowen, I want to tell you that we are in this together. And our schools are in this together, and our teachers are in this together. And I am just as disgusted at the comments that I heard tonight about one of our schools as you are. Even though it is not in my district, that doesn't make a bit of difference. Doesn't a bit of difference. Those teachers work tirelessly. And it is a great school.
Yes, it is.
And any kid would be proud and lucky to attend Astoria Park.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right. Let me draw to you guys' attention the item that was pulled regarding Southwood. I'm going to ask you, I asked Danny and Ms. Coffey, that item no longer exists on the board docs, but to please send all of the board the full contract. It was about 59 pages. And I'm going to ask you guys if you'll take out your pen and just, there's cause for concern. And I'd like for you to notate these pages, and please, because it is a long document and there's a lot involved in it. But everybody knows what I'm talking about, right? The item we just discussed last night? Okay.
Yeah.
So if you would please take note of, and it's a PDF, so don't look at the page numbers on the bottom of the page itself. Look at on the top where it says this is page 4 out of 50 or whatever it is. So pages 7, 30, 50, and it's either 57 or 47. But there's several comments in the document that allude to expansion of a lot of other schools in that area. Our capacity is the smallest one referred to. Every other one seems to be getting more square footage. including our new charter school. There is some mention of architectural input being had if we were to build by St. Joe and Southwood. There is a discussion, there's a point in there made about a reduction of the number of household units that are actually going to be provided in Southwood. So I would ask you just to maybe, before we get together next week and discuss this, and I think there's a broader conversation to be had about the 40 acres that has been allocated to us, and if we are going to make some kind of bargain, what could we stand to gain from it? Because I think there is something more for us to gain from this discussion. So I think we're going to revisit it, look at something, but I would ask you just to peruse those pages and make yourself a little familiar with those few items. And I know that's low down on the list tonight, but this is the only time we're going to have between now and next week to throw that out there. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Striplin. I would like to give you an A for your homework assignments from this and last night's effort.
To also respond, I want to
Mr. Jones.
thank you for taking the time to do what you've done. The devil is often in the details, and so and I appreciate your having helped to broker continued conversation through these observations. And I'm sure we'll get those pages forwarded to us along with the PDF so that we can make note of the same concerns that you have also found. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
So
Wood. Excuse me.
briefly in response to Board Member Striplin, we've reached out to an attorney in town. And so number one on the agenda for March 9th for our agenda review will be this issue, this topic, so we can go ahead and get more information and make a an informed decision. If there's a better get for us, then so be it. There may or there may not be, but I think it was wise for us to pull this item tonight and make a see what our options are if we or aren't, right? So we'll move forward on March the 9th.
Thank you. Very good. Ms. Wood.
Two things. One, I have on my COCA sticker here because some of you know that I'm on the COCA board for the last 7 years, and Ms. Striplin is the liaison for the school board, so we have two representatives that talk about education. I did go to the county commission meeting today, and I didn't hear the vote, but it seemed from what they all said it was going to be a unanimous vote in favor of keeping COCA in the structure that they're in, and I just wanted to publicly thank Amanda Thompson and all the COCA staff who constantly are providing our schools with resources that we do not pay for, but we get. And we get our students' artwork exhibited in City Hall, and we get all kinds of workshops in our schools, and a lot of that is due to their work and their belief in education of growing our young artists and musicians and historians, and hopefully they will come back and stay in Tallahassee. Like as an example, Adam and Lily Kay, who have come back, went to Leon in the Leon County School District, and they've come back and they've got Railroad Square going, which is a big arts economic development engine. So, I think it was clear at the county commission meeting we can work together, but there was a lot of support. They were shocked at how many people showed up. So I thought that was just great, and I wanted to shout out a thank you from the school system to them. And the other group I wanted to shout out, and I went to the show A Town Divided at TCC. I think Dr. Gale was there, and it was done by the Shakespeare group. And I have never seen such a good performance that touched so many kids. The theater at the day I went was full of Godby students. The whole 9th grade class came, and the SAIL students. That was just circumstantial that happened, and they were so engaged. They had studied Romeo and Juliet, and then the show was so relevant to their lives. It was a story of a young African-American student who goes to Rickards, and a white student who goes to Childs, and their love of Shakespeare and how they got together and how the parents were appalled. And they really showed all the issues that happen, in our culture about prejudice and racism. And the highlight for me was Walt McNeil was there, and part of the play had to do with a young officer who had had his friend killed in a certain part of town. He sort of had PTSD, and he's the one, not to spoil it, but you know, in Romeo and Juliet, people die in the end. That the officer
Spoiler alert.
that the officer overreacted because of his own experience, and the young people were killed, or some of them were. And so the audience, the kids were like, oh my goodness. And then they had an incredible discussion afterwards that Walt McNeil led about what happens, and just the whole issue of police and trust and getting to know and understanding, and it was phenomenal. And I think all of our schools got to go to that performance, and I know that Leon County supported that. We paid for the transportation. Part of the money we gave to them paid for our students to go to that performance, and it was remarkable. So I want you to know that it was a very meaningful experience for the kids.
And the name of the organization that put this on was
It's the Shakespeare.
Southern Shakespeare
Southern
Festival.
Shakespeare. I couldn't quite
Just thought I would mention that.
Southern
In
Shakespeare.
case any of you were wondering.
Yeah, it was amazing. It was amazing.
Thank you for the report on that, though, and I think it was a great event.
Hashtag shade.
Okay.
Are we done?
Yes, I move to adjourn.
Well done.
Ms. Bowen moves we rise.